terrorism and Islam. Why do some people often relate them to each other, and why is there a wrong image of Muslims in the West? Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new episode of Youth Talk. First of all, I'd like to welcome my guest in the studio. I have with me Sheikh Assim Luqman Al-Hakeem. It's a pleasure having you with us, Sheikh Assim.
Same here, thank you.
I'd also like to welcome my guests. I have to my left Tariq, a student at the Academy of Art. I have Marwan, who is a corporate lawyer, and Mustafa, who is a translator. Sheikh Assim, recently there's been a lot of talk about terrorism and Islam and the relationship. In some people's view, that there is a relationship between them. How can we start off by saying, what is the relationship, if any?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa ihtada bihuda. First of all, you have to look at Islam from a very wide perspective, in the sense that whatever Islam teaches or preaches, then this is how you are able to judge this religion. You do not judge a religion by the actions of its followers. You judge a religion by what it teaches. And if you go into detail, you cannot help but loving this religion. And just imagine what a Muslim says to a Muslim whenever they meet. They say, peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. So it is a religion of peace. As-salam, which is peace, is one of the attributes and names of Allah, our Lord, yes, the creator of this universe. If you look in the teachings of the Prophet, may peace and blessing be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you'll find out that he himself portrayed peace in its best form, in the sense that he said that there are different divisions of faith. Faith as Iman itself, faith is divided into some 70 divisions. And the top of this list is the testimony, the belief that there is no God worthy of worshipping but Allah Azza wa Jal. And on the bottom of this list is removing obstacles that are harmful to people from their way. So our religion tells us to remove obstacles that may injure, may harm people from their roads and streets. There's a hadith that says that the Prophet ﷺ told us that a man was walking down the road one day and he saw something that harms people, broken glass or whatever, and he said that I will remove this from the road so that no one would be injured or harmed because of it. Our Prophet tells us that Allah Azza wa Jal has forgiven all the sins of this person and He made him go to paradise because of what he has done. In a religion that teaches and preaches this, would you by any means expect that it also preaches planting bombs in supermarkets or in compounds? Does it preach killing people discriminately? Definitely not.
Well, why then is there always a kind of, why most recently is there such an emphasis on the fact that Islam is a religion of violence, at least in the opinion of many Westerners?
Beats me. The only thing that I could think of is that if you are in control of the media, you can control everybody else. So you can control their souls, you can control their minds, and you can portray whatever you want and convince people that this is the case. But I'll just give you a few examples. Now, these recent events, took place only like maximum 15 years ago. Before that, we had no encounter with violence or terrorism. Before that, we had excellent relations with the West. We had lots of Muslims studying in the States and in Europe, and we had lots of visitors and expats working in the Muslim world. We had no problem at all. So what ignited these events, what initiated the violence and the terrorism, is definitely not something that was or is in our religion. Because our religion was here and there more than 1,400 years. So there's definitely something else. It's the same curriculum that we've been teaching our kids in school. It's the same Quran that has not changed for 14 centuries,
Precisely.
not even one single letter. It's the same teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, authentic. Nothing has changed. So definitely it's something else other than the religion. Besides, we also, if you look at the West, we have lots of terrorist attacks from the Westerners themselves. You have the IRA in Northern Ireland. You have David Koresh in Waco, Texas, with what he did with his cult. You have Timothy McVeigh, who was executed because of the Oklahoma bombing. You have Goldstein, or whatever his name is, who attacked the mosque in Hebron and killed over 25 worshippers praying, Muslims. And he was a soldier, and he was just a lunatic. Okay, then all the terrorist attacks that have been taking place are the results of Muslim lunatics. So, touché. So why attach this to our religion? Recite the Quran, read the prophetic teachings and saying, and judge my religion according to what's there in black and white.
Not according to what people themselves do or supporters do. Marwan?
I have a comment over here, just on one thing, in addition to what Sheikh Hasim said. But to study this attack thing and tie it to Islam and relate it to it some way or another, we have to study the case itself very simply. Out of that, we're Muslims and we're followers to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and everything. Let's study the thing out of all pressures. Okay. Whenever there's a bombing, there's a motive, and there's a victim, and there's a beneficiary, right?
Yeah.
Who is the victim, and who's the beneficiary, and what is the motive, the incentive, all right? So if we study that, we'll see some people who are not Muslims are the beneficiaries, and who are really harmed, not the killed. The political the consequences that extern and tie to Islam. This is the conclusion we have reached to. So I think this thing has real, very old relations to the international environment. It's not just something local. It's a global change in the whole world. How much are Muslims in the world to cause all these troubles? Just 1 billion point something compared to 7.5 billion people? So is that something to be counted to threat all the world? And how are the 20-something countries tied to each other and they intervened by other countries? That has nothing to do with Islam. And how did Islam spread in the first place? Did it spread by violence? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our prophet, and who called for Islam from the very beginning, always took all the insulting and took everything, and he never fought back.
Yeah.
See, so there is a message over here to understand from the whole theory itself. The theory that Islam wants to spread, bil-husna, with the lenient way and with convincing. And if it's not spread, it's a very convincing religion. I've read nearly all the sacred religions that are stated in the world in all the books. Islam, to study the Quran itself is a very convincing book. But somebody has to read it. And somebody has to translate it correctly. This is the issue that we have. Many of the Westerns do not have the book, do not have the Quran itself translated. And they never look for it. They take only guidelines. Because one, they don't have any time to read it, maybe. Two, they are very crippled in the media, for example. And they listen from their ears, they never use their eyes in witnessing. And three, that the Quran is not translated well to be spread in the West, to be delivered correctly. So the thing here that I do want to raise, that the connection between the word irhab, لِتُرْهِبُوا بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ, this word was stated a lot of times in the media. But practically, I have to clarify this theory because I've made a study on this word in specific. This irhab word does not mean terrorize. It means deter, yarda. If the expressions of the Arabic language, every word has maybe 10 or 12 meanings.
Yeah.
It's called al-mushtarak. Al-mushtarak is the connection, the connected word that has a lot of meanings, but it's written the same way. So irhab is deter. It's not terrorize at all. It has nothing to do with terrorism. Anyways, if we took it simultaneously and said that it's terrorism, then to terrorize someone is not to actually violate him. To terrorize him is to scare him,
Well, actually,
not to violate him. See, it's
Just a second, Marwan, then okay, we'll take
what I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what Marwan said was, or is, now, you have to define terrorism.
What is it, terrorism?
So, in order to be able to judge something, you have to define it. For example, what the Red Indians used to do when the white man came into America, was this terrorism? Would you expect this to be terrorism?
You should defend.
You're defending yourself. If someone comes into your house and attacks your wife, your kids, and wants to rob your house, would it be democratic to say, well, let's go to court? Or you got to shoot the guy between the eyes?
So self-defense is always guaranteed, and it's guaranteed in the statutes of the United Nations as well. But what I'm trying to reach here is the thing prior to violence. Violence is an advanced stage of the preliminary stage of terrorism. So terrorism is just an emotion. It is not an action. So terrorize someone is to scare him, not to beat him up, and not to bomb him off. So when I terrorize you, I tell you, if you come near me, I'll take the necessary measures. I'm terrorizing you, but I'm not violating you, and I'm not beating you up, and I'm not hurting you, harming you physically.
So it's aggression that you're talking about.
Exactly. So this is the distinguishment between the two expressions. So we cannot we cannot judge a whole religion for a single word, translated in the wrong way. So to judge a whole book and the whole ethics of Islam of 1,400 years that have passed and millions of people for one word, I think that's something.
You can't judge it according to what some people,
It's not just
some supporters of the religion itself do.
No, Sheikh Asim, I have thought a lot about the relationship between terrorism and Islam. So in the West, a lot of people, a lot of organizations say that Islam is the main aspect of terrorism. The bombs here and there in King Cross in London, they say that Islam. So how can we, I know it's a general question, but I want to know how can we defend our Islam from this aggressive attack?
Is it the lack of people's awareness, for example, that Islam's being to blame for any act of terrorism? They're hanging the blame on it, for example?
Only by the media, only by information and sites. And what exactly, how can we say that this is our Islam, this is our principles, this is, that means peace, Islam is a religion, like any religion, yes, it's the last religion, but this doesn't mean that he's calling for destructive,
Destruction.
If I have a comment before this question, excuse me, if you don't mind, that I have a comment on Marwan's words. They said that Islam was spread by leniency or in a nice way, in a very peaceful way. No, I guess it's the opposite. While chatting with any American guy, said, what's your religion, for example? I said, I'm Muslim. Say, sword, triple dots, blood, bye. That's it. I try to get him back again. Say, I try to explain how Islam is spread. We Muslims, we know that Islam was spread in a nice way, and our Prophet was the nicest guy ever, or the nicest man, ever. And
the perfect human.
Yes, the perfect. He was an example to be followed. But they have another idea about Muslims. They have about Arabs in general. Whenever we speak about Arab, the desert, camels, tents. Really. And while we are chatting with them, he said to me, once we were chatting with American guys, he said to me, do you have a tent and a camel?
Now that's the thing. Some people still think that we have camels walking around in the middle of our cities. They don't even know we're living in cities. Sheikh Assim, if you could comment on some of the things that are...
Well, I have a very thoroughbred camel outside, and I brought him with me, and it's his four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive.
Well, see, listen, the thing is that you have lots of comments of people that shows their ignorance. So whenever you chat online with others and they say that you have this, you have that, the least they could do out of dignity is to read about or research this religion. Now, you cannot say that Islam was not spread by the sword, but you cannot say that Islam was spread by the sword. It was both ways. So it's not a religion of just, preaching to people and they convert to Islam. There are enemies of Islam that you have to fight. There are aggressors that attack your country. You have to defend yourself. But if you look at Southeast Asia, for example, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and so on, the largest Muslim country worldwide is Indonesia, with over 200 plus million Muslims, and not a single soldier went there. It's all merchants, people just saw the ethics, the values of Islam, and they reverted to Islam. So it wasn't spread by the sword, but the sword is an essential thing to defend yourself. There is no country worldwide that respects itself and does not have an army. And you look around you, everybody is going into arms and they're doing this and that to defend themselves.
Sheikh Assim, a moment ago, Tariq was mentioning the point about how we can counter the image of terrorism and Islam to show the true meaning of the religion itself. What role should we do?
Essentially, it's very important that we acquire the proper knowledge to clarify our position. Now, knowledge is very important in the sense that Muslims by nature are emotional, and if oppressed, without the proper knowledge, they may do the wrong things. And knowledge of the Quran, knowledge of the Sunnah, is what guides us on the right path. And that is why we pray every single day and night, and we say in each prayer that, "O Allah, O Lord, we seek that you guide us to the right path." So with the proper knowledge, you can differentiate between what's right and what's wrong. Now, I'm not talking about United Nations resolutions. I'm not talking about any worldly rulings and law, with all due respect to lawyers. I'm talking about the divine rules of Allah Azza wa Jal. So if you have the proper knowledge, you know what to do and you know what you must stay away from. Now, you can not counterattack every single threat or insult or accusation that people throw at you. It's going to exhaust you. It's going to take all of your time. And it's a problem. Whenever a dog barks at you, you throw a stone, stones will be pretty expensive after a while, especially if you're surrounded by dogs. But the best thing to defend Islam is to be a proper and good Muslim. Your behavior, your conduct, the values that you show to people, and by being a good Muslim, meaning that you are practicing what you're preaching. This is the best defense, the best thing that you could do to clarify the misconceptions that others have towards Islam. And by saying this, it's very important not to be on the defensive side. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of scholars, a lot of preachers, always sitting on the defensive bench, saying, no, Islam is not like that. Islam is not like what you're thinking. And they start to, sometimes they try to compromise. They try to, go out of their way to be acceptable to the other. And this is not acceptable in Islam. I am proud to say this is Islam. Love it or leave it. I'm not going to go out of my way for you to accept Islam. This is not my religion. This is the religion of the creator of the universe.
Yes.
So if you want to have it as it is,
fine.
You're quite welcome. If you don't, I'm not going to go out of my way, bend verses or rulings of Islam just to be acceptable for you.
Marwan, now that, as Sheikh Assim was saying a moment ago, the fact that doing what you preach or acting what you preach, do you think that that's enough, especially as there's a kind of a stereotyping for Muslims abroad or in the West? Do you think that just by being a good Muslim, that would be enough, that you could change this vision of Muslims as people who are out to annihilate us, for example?
I believe this is a great role in the very beginning, but there's another individual role that we have to play as youth, excited youth. We have to receive the correct guidance. All those youth have to receive the correct guidance in order to act properly and according to what Islam really says. The other thing, the individual responsibility and liability on every one of us as youth, we have to clarify what Islam is. We don't bend anything, but we just correctly convert what Islam means. And that's it. If we do have this incentive, we won't defend anything, because if we're defending anything, see this out of the negotiation skills basically. If you're defending something, then you're accused of something. If you're accused of something, then the other one's a victim. So you're putting him as a victim, and you're putting yourself a violator with no reason. So I agree totally with Sheikh Assim. We do have to stand not in the defensive side, in the clarification role. We clarify what Islam is. It's just love it or leave it, but to clarify it correctly. And with a smiling face, and with all what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us to do. We can't just go around beating people. This is not acceptable. And it's not acceptable as well to go around, somebody swears at you and you beat him up. So this would mix with other barbarian religions or attitude that is not for Islam. So, for example, to react to something, you have to react according to what Islam says, because this is how to control your nerves, and how to control your excitement with any situation or any insulting we receive.
Okay.
Is there any?
Go ahead, Tariq.
Okay. I would also like to ask Sheikh Assim about. Is it useful to send troops from here, like Sheikh? Well, I have heard that there were a lot of actions against the travel of Amr Khalid and Tariq Sudan to Denmark to tell about themselves and about Islam. Are you with this action to go there to say this is wrong and our Islam is like that and that and that? Is it important to do it?
To have discussions or like seminars
Muslim
about
delegations to the West.
Muslim delegations to the West, for example?
This is something that you have to put your mind to and weigh the pros and cons. It's not a clear-cut question that you say, well, there's a verse in the Quran that says, or there's a hadith that says. It's something that you have to work it out and see the pros and cons, the advantages and the disadvantages regarding this issue. In my point of view, if the Danish people invited us, if the Danish government invites us to clarify our position, that would be okay. But if you go there uninvited, neither by the government nor by a newspaper that insulted our prophet, I see that this is a bit weak.
Yeah.
Because then, as if you're begging them, do something for us. We don't need you.
How do you make them invite us?
This is a question.
You don't make people. If it doesn't come from themselves, from within, I don't need you.
How can we make it come to them?
How
do we make it come to them that they have this incentive to invite us?
You boycott their products. You make them feel the pain they've inflicted on us by insulting our prophet, by not buying their products. And this is not a barbaric thing or something that is out of the blue. The United States have been boycotting Cuban products for the past 40 years, though they don't have anything against the States. It's simply a conflict of interest. So, touche. We did this to one country. We have not attacked them. We have not insulted them. See, this is one of the things that sometimes out of frustration, a Muslim, and out of emotions, a Muslim would say, "Oh, I wish my religion didn't do this." Yeah. So many times, without proper knowledge, you get Muslims coming up to you and say, "Okay, can we mock of their queen? Can we take their prime minister and write cartoons about him? Can we talk about Jesus Christ, for example, because they're Christians?" The minute you write any negative letter against Jesus Christ, you're not a Muslim.
Yes.
It's immediate.
Exactly.
Any insult, any wrong saying about any prophet of Allah, any prophet or messenger of any religion, you're completely nullifying your religion. So without the proper knowledge, say, oh, I wish I could do this, but you can't. This is un-Islamic. And again, Islam tells us not to talk bad about their leaders, because then this would make them talk bad about our religion. So our hands are tied in the sense of the negative point of view. Positively thinking, no, it's not. Because the more you throw a tree, the more fruit it comes out of it. So whatever you do, the more insult you do to our Prophet ﷺ, he is exalted. And he is higher in status. And that is why it's stated in the Quran that Allah Azza wa Jal will exalt his mentioning. And this is what's happening. Lots of people reverted to Islam because of this campaign, because they thought, what is Islam? Who's doing this? Who's Muhammad? And they started researching the net, and then they found reverted to Islam. So I think that this visit to the Danish people, it's something that these scholars did out of their good intention, and they thought that it would pay in a good sense. My point of view, it's strong. We should have our dignity. Whenever they come to their senses and they call us for negotiation, okay, we may go to a common ground somewhere else, not necessarily to their country. We can invite them, we can show them our Islamic hospitality, though they did wrong to us, but this is what Islam is all about.
Okay, well, Mustafa, we'll have the question in a few moments. Just have to take a quick break, and I'll come back to you right away. Welcome back to Youth Talk. Mustafa, you had a question a few moments ago.
Yes, actually I have a comment on the Sheikh's words. Boycott is an accepted idea, a very peaceful idea, and the least thing we have to do in order to reply on what they have done. But suppose that other countries attacked in the same way, right? Are we going to boycott all the world?
Well, that's a very good question. Now, is boycotting economical boycott, would it be considered an act of terror? No, it will not. It's not, because simply it's my choice to buy from one country
and not to buy from the other.
Not to buy from the other. Now, if the case were to be that more countries took place in this assault on our religion, then you have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to see the advantages and disadvantages. At the end of the day, there are few Danish products that we still buy because no one else produces them except Denmark. Diabetes medication. So again, you do whatever serves your purpose and needs. But at the same time, it's your choice. It's not forbidden for you to buy Danish products. Again, it's not something that is haram. It's just something that you feel that you're doing something to punish those who insulted your religion.
But you're doing it in a proper way, a way that will not reflect your religion in a bad light.
That's true.
And shall we stay on the other side? Shall we stay negative, waiting for any attack to defend or to take an action? I mean, certain products, as we have mentioned, that we need very much, and we cannot do without it, all right, or without them. So why don't we think in developing ourselves as a community, and a Muslim community, in order to not to be negative? If it's cut, what are we going to do? Are we going to weigh, or we have to be ready for any?
This is of course a call that we've been calling for the past 40, 50 years ago. For the past 50 years now, we've been calling all Muslims to unite, and we have the ability to be a nation self-containing nation. We have the agricultural lands, we have the industrial capabilities, we have the brains to support this, and we have the finance. Oil is there. But the problem is it's political. So this does not come to the grassroots of Islam. It comes to the way it's practiced and what the politicians want or do not want.
I want to concentrate again, stressing the point about the correct understanding of Islam, because I feel that many in the West, maybe normal people, when they interact with Muslims, and I'm talking on a day-to-day basis, for example, that they see that Muslims are good people, that they're peaceful people. However, the larger community, the governments, for example, may picture them in a different way. Is there more of a role that should be played to reflect the true meaning of Muslims in their daily behavior, as you, Sheikh Assim, mentioned a moment ago? I mean, is there a way to actually do that, or should one just proceed with his life in a normal way, wherever he's living, specifically in Western countries, in a proper way, and that is enough?
It depends on your position. See, a guy like me and you, we live our daily lives as good Muslims. We pray in the mosque, in the masjid, in the mosques. Whenever we meet people, we're honest with them. We don't backbite, we don't cheat, we don't steal, we don't fornicate, we don't drink intoxicants. We are very kind to our parents, our next of kin. We are very, very kind to our neighbors. Though we don't like them, we hate their guts, but Islam tells me you have to be kind to them. You have to feed them if they're hungry. We're very kind to the orphans, we're kind to the non-Muslims that we meet. All of this you find in the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is on the individual base, or individual level. If you go a little bit up, if you have more credentials, more capability to do more, then you are requested to invest and utilize your capabilities. For example, we have to have internet sites that invite people to Islam. Those who have access time can defend Islam by chatting on the net with non-Muslims and clarifying and explaining Islam's position of different issues. As Marwan said, that it's not only being a Muslim is enough. You have to be proactive in the sense of that you have to start a TV channel, a newspaper.
The media's role now.
The media. You have to be a Muslim wherever you are. It's not only the masjid. If you're a sportsman, you have to be proud of being a Muslim. If you're a footballer, for example, a soccer player, we have Zidane, he's a Muslim, okay, then you have to be proud of your Islam, as lots of the Muslim sportsmen are. They're proud of being a Muslim, but if you rape someone and you go to jail and you revert to Islam, and then you come back and say, I'm a Muslim, and you don't portray a good image of Islam, this is harming us. So it depends on where you are. If you are a governor or a ruler, then you should make sure that justice is being served. It's your job. If you're a lawyer, if you're a judge, then it's your job to implement Islam and to be fair to Muslims and non-Muslims. Otherwise, you're going to be punished by Allah. You're going to be punished by our Lord. Yes. So it's a cumulative effort from everyone, even the housewife. If she is a good housewife, she defends Islam. She portrays Islam in the best format, in the sense of taking care of future men.
Generations.
And whenever interviewed by media, she's not oppressed. She would not say, oh, I'm oppressed between four walls. I wish I could, water ski. I wish I could, dance ballet or whatever, attend the opera. No. She is content with what she's doing because she is taking care of half of our society. So each one must have the dignity and be proud of being a Muslim. And this is the best means of spreading Islam.
Tariq, would you say, Sheikh Assim mentioned the point about the media. Do you think that the media should play a role in reflecting a proper image? We know that sometimes lots of documentaries and things have been made about terrorism, about certain incidents where people, bombers and so on, have been Muslims. But do you think that the media should play a role?
Of course, media is very important, and it depends on the man or the group who are taking the track of the media, and who are responsible, who have the intention, and who is intending to make something for Islam, and he's proud of that. So it's very important in cinema and in drama, in Islamic programs, in social programs. So it's very important because we know that media change and give a lot of aspects to, yes, of course, for people. Change.
Marwan?
Media is magic. It's the magic of the century. Media, it's been like, we'll talk about, it's one of the instruments of globalization. How culture affects the other.
And people watch TV and sit on the internet more than they actually go out these days.
Exactly. So it's one of the main instruments of globalization. So it's a whole process that's going around the world. So media is a directed weapon. If you can create things through media, and you can totally erase facts through media. You can erase capitals, and you can change capitals of the world through media.
I think that the media is one of the greatest tools for terrorism.
Exactly.
Because you have physical terrorism, and you have mental terrorism.
Yes.
And what's taking place at the moment is this form of terrorism, because Islam controls like 0.0001 of the media, while all the non-Islamic forces control the rest.
All the media.
And so whenever you turn on a news channel and you see that they focus only on Muslims being on the offensive side. They never show Muslims defending themselves.
Really?
They never show Muslims being oppressed and kicked out of their house. It's been their land for the past 600, 700 years, and all of a sudden someone comes from Russia, from God knows where, and he says that, well, this is my land and I have to take it. Take it from where? These are my ancestors' a piece of land. I have documentation proving this. And you find that the whole universe is collaborating against this poor Palestinian Muslim who's been living there all of his life with his children. Now, they portray that whatever happens is because of Islam. The Muslims did this. But whenever a Christian American does something, no one comes, like the Unabomber, for example, who was a professor and he did lots of wonders and wrong things. But nobody said he's a Christian. See, whatever happens in the Arab world, they relate this to Islam. Whatever happens in the West, they relate this to the
lack
country.
of awareness, in a sense?
Manipulation.
Manipulation.
It's not lack of awareness. It's those who are controlling the media. They have an objective, they have a mission and vision, and they put whatever serves their interest.
And they've already said that people do this, or Muslims do this, because their religion tells them to do this.
That's what's happening. So I think this is a great tool for terrorism. They are intimidating us, and they're putting us in the form of the aggressor, and we are the terrorists, and we are so and so and so.
Okay, Mustafa, I'm sorry. Today seems to be all this discussion about terrorism seems to have me forgetting the names of the people who are with us. Mustafa, a question now. You've recently seen, of course, many a time on certain satellite channels that they've got images, for example, of certain people whom are called terrorists, and that, for example, executions or killings that happen in Iraq by certain groups who kidnap people, and they say that they either have a banner behind them that has some verse written, or La ilaha illallah, or something like of the kind. Do you think that that is, again, manipulation, or that automatically gives a very, very strong image of Islam as a violent religion?
Actually, yes, it's very clear. I support or agree with my sheikh on the word that whenever happens that a Muslim terrorist done so, a Muslim, the word Muslim is before terrorist, and it's even, I guess, that mentioning
Muslim
it in the beginning.
Yes,
in the beginning, they say Muslim. This means it gives you feel that it's worse than terrorism, or it's the source of terrorism. All right, the point that gives the power to this man to move. Right? Yes, we agree that Islam gives us the power to move, but towards good things, not towards bad things. All the teachings I have read, I don't have much knowledge, but all the things or all the teachings I've read about my religion teaches me how, to a great extent, to be kind to people. Even this is could be a burden on me. I have to bear my neighbor. I have to bear the bad people. I have to bear the person who insults me. And the example of our Prophet, that whenever anybody insults, should put something on his face while praying, his reaction was very kind, to the extent that the man sometimes changed to Islam. But at least if he hasn't changed, he has changed his mind about...
There's a clear message that automatically comes out. It's not, I'm going to beat you up for coming near me or for saying something about me.
Oh, yes. That's why, actually, I'm very sad about what's happening, but that's it. This is what happened, and we have to...
I believe that that I have to bear is not the correct terminology that we do have to use at this time. I do not have to bear anything as Muslim. I do not bear. I just convert my religion, and I do apply it correctly, but I do not bear. If it includes bearing someone, then I will do, but I don't just bear because I'm Muslim.
It's not a meaning of actually bearing because you don't want to. You're bearing because you see that this is part of your duty to do that. That you're doing it not out of...
If it's a part of the duty. But if you're beaten up, you can't just stand there.
No, that's
and
a
just
different situation completely.
Someone beating you up, you can't just do this. This one. Two, if we're talking about terrorism and Islam, this is not just about Islam itself as a religion. It's a part of the global system. How is the global system going since the 16th century? What is the plan of the universe? How to be imperialists and how to not? There's a global change. It's not specifically against Islam. Islam was the sacrificed sheep. How to put it in this phase and how to beat it up. Exactly. Exactly.
Well.
So how to put the polar powers in the world up together, and how to make the polarity system after the Cold War. No, after the Cold War, which ended in 1991. We had the globalization phase, and then it ended up with the dual polarity, and then the single unipolarity that has been accelerated by Islam and using Islam and terrorism to accelerate the unipolarity monopoly. So therefore, it's not just the religion that is responsible, and not just the converting our ideas and thoughts and clarifying the religion that is responsible, but it's a part of the decision-making in the whole world that some Muslims have to clarify and have to play a role in the international system, and we control a lot of finance. So it has to be reflected somewhere in the political horizons.
Mustafa, you had a question a few moments ago.
The events that we notice are done by individuals. The people say a Muslim bombed or exploded himself, and he's one person, and the action, which the terroristic action happens by organizations or countries, we've never heard about. They're all on the backside.
They're put on the side.
Oh yes, yeah. So this is also back how strong media change facts. That one person does something, all right, which may be not very effective. It's highlighted and spotted, and all people talk about. But what countries do, and what organizations do, nobody knows anything about them.
But sometimes these people who do the things themselves, these people who actually do the acts, hold up a banner of Islam.
I think, if I may.
Of course.
I think that this is, again, sort of media terrorism. Because there have been always the conspiracy theory. And it's not us who are claiming that it exists. You know, for example, there's a well-known film, a movie that I heard a lot of people talk about and read about it. It's called Swordfish by John Travolta and other.
Yes.
And it talks about the role of intelligence agency in conducting terrorist attacks so that the government would increase its funding to that intelligence agency. And this could easily happen because as Marwan said, who is benefiting from these attacks? Who's benefiting from terrorism? It's not us. You know, if you go to Indonesia, if you go to Egypt, if you go to Morocco, you'll find the bulk of the Muslims are easygoing people. They pray, they fast, they live their daily lives. They have no interest in anything else but to be good, law-abiding citizens. They love Allah, they love Islam, they worship their Lord as they're commanded to. They don't have any other agendas. So who's benefiting from this? It's definitely not the Muslims. It's definitely not Islam. Someone with a hidden agenda is executing these things, is doing. But again, we don't want to talk about the role of conspiracy, the theory of conspiracy here. Now, I'm not going to go into details because this could go forever. But the 9/11 events, for example, none of those who were alleged to be terrorists ever flew a jet plane. Never in their lives. One or two of them had commercial training on a one propeller airplane, and he was a lousy a lousy pilot that could not pass the exam. Now, to claim that someone with such credentials could come into a 4-engine jet liner full with fuel, full with passengers, take off from an airport and go in this jungle of buildings, know exactly where he's going, and then make this nice Air Force tour, leap and turn, and bullseye, hits the first tower, the second one comes and does the same. I met professional instructor pilots, professional that have been flying for 25 years. They are instructor pilots. They fly on the simulators, and I've asked them, is this possible? They say that we tried it on a simulator after the event took place, just for the heck of it. We missed the first time. The second time we managed to hit the building. And they are professional pilots. Imagine, you drive, Karim. If I...
A car.
Okay. If I give you an 18-wheeler and ask you to park it in reverse, if I tell you just take it around the block, would it be easy for you? Definitely not. Anybody that is an excellent driver, if you put him on a boat and tell him dock the boat, it would take him ages
just to be able to
dock it, and you're not flying it. So what about flying an air? It could take forever.
Could go on and on.
But my main point is that the media is controlling everything. And it brainwashes people. It's stereotyping.
You don't think that the West hate Muslims, for example?
No, I don't think so. I have a lot of non-Muslims friends. We play squash together, we go out, we would associate and work, and they have nothing against us. And I don't have anything against them. But it's what they see on the media, what they see on their TV screens that make them have their reservations. The minute they sit and talk with us, Muslims, they see that
questions.
There's nothing wrong with us. So where did this thing come from? It's a stereotyping. No matter how many times I try to convince you that I'm a good person, if you keep on seeing before you go to bed that I am an assassin or a serial killer, next day in the morning you're gonna have your reservations.
But I mean, as well, in addition to what Sheikh Hassan said, individual Muslims may be Muslims who did this, but it's not institutional, organized attacks. So we won't talk about Muslims as to be blamed as individuals. Maybe they're wacko individuals, no problem. For instance, let's take any of the events that happened and relate it well to Islam. Okay, it was Muslims, all right? Individual wacko Muslims, all right? Let's study about the institutional terrorism and organized. How a state puts all its powers in another Muslim state. This is organized terrorism. And who used the atomic bomb once in the world and is always blaming everybody to use it?
Twice.
It was a Muslim. See, it was a Muslim. Without getting into details, someone beats you up and they tells you, if you ever beat again, I'll kill you. And they beat you again, and if you ever beat again, I'll kill you. See? And then he tells you, you're a terrorist. This would not go. This is not logic, though. So, I mean, we have to like study the thing without the effective media and study it substantially.
Sheikh Hassan, to wrap up, what do you think should be done to counter this image? I mean, something that everybody can do.
It's very simple. On an individual level, again, be a Muslim. Practice. Be a practicing Muslim. Be proud of saying, I'm a Muslim, and don't let anybody find a loophole this big on you. And on a higher institution level, we should have more media coverage. We should have more interviews. We should be exposed to the media in the sense that this is our religion, this is our country, look at us.
I'd like to thank Sheikh Qasim Luqman Al-Hakeem for joining us. Pleasure having you with us. And of course, my participants, Tariq, Marwan and Mustafa, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back again soon with a new episode of Youth Talk and another topic. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.